Why am I whispering so nobody notices my mainland Chinese accent? Because right now I'm standing on a Taiwanese island Kinmen that is less than 2 miles from mainland China. In fact, if you look right over my shoulder across this blue water, you can literally see China's brand new multi-billion-dollar international airport being built on the opposite shore. I took a simple 30-minute passenger ferry, got paid $6 by a total stranger to carry a secret bag of mushrooms across the border, and ended up on Asia's most misunderstood front line. In the news, this narrow stretch of water is constantly called one of the most dangerous military flashpoints on Earth. But today, I'm taking you inside what life is actually like on this island when you are a traveler from mainland China. Forget the dry history books. We are decoding the absurd everyday reality, the strange economic hassles, and the surreal cultural bond between two places that share the exact same blood, yet live worlds apart. Let's get into it. First off, crossing one of the most heavily discussed borders in global politics felt shockingly mundane. I bought a ferry ticket at Wutong Port in Xiamen for $22, but right after I picked up my portable Wi-Fi device at the terminal, the local agency representative quietly approached my friend and me. She pointed to a heavy sealed red plastic bag and offered us a deal. Just carry this through customs to gate 5 on the other side, and I'll pay you 40 yuan, about $6 each. Together, my friend and I were looking at 80 yuan in cold hard cash. I'm not going to lie, my internal alarm bell started ringing instantly. Was I being recruited as an accidental drug mule? Was I participating in illegal border smuggling? I carefully inspected the bag, and sure enough, it was packed tightly with dried mainland mushrooms. So why the movie like secrecy over mushrooms? Here is a hilarious economic reality. Mainland Chinese dried mushrooms are massively popular across Taiwan for home cooking, but Taiwan imposes sky-high import tariffs on agricultural goods to protect the island farmers. However, there is a legal loophole. Every ferry traveler is legally permitted to bring up to 1 kilogram of dried mushroom tax-free for personal use. Local agencies exploit this loophole to build a thriving underground courier industry. They pay everyday traveler like me a small courier fee to use our free custom quota, gather the bag at gate 5, and resell them for profits. So yes, my very first job on Taiwan's front line was working as a $6 mushroom smuggler. After successfully dropping my secret fungi cargo at gate 5, I hopped on a free shuttle provided by a local scooter rental shop, stripped on my helmet, and picked up my electronic scooter. But before driving deeper into the island, we had to make 2 urgent stops, grabbing local Taiwanese milk tea and visiting Kinmen's McDonald's. The scooter shop host insisted Taiwanese McDonald's tastes much better than the mainland version, and honestly, he was right. The extra crispy chicken hit completely differently. Quick question for you watching: do you think McDonald's tastes better in your home country or when you travel abroad? Let me know in the comments. Once you leave the main town on a scooter, the landscape transforms instantly. You ride through quiet country roads, green fields, and suddenly you hit the coastline. And this is where your brain experiences a massive glitch. I rode down to Guningtou beach. Decades ago, this exact strip of sand was heavily fortified. Even today, you can see hundreds of jagged iron spikes, called anti-tank rail obstacles. They were planted here to stop military landing crafts. But when you raise your camera and look directly past those rusty iron spikes right across the water, towering above the ocean horizon is the gleaming futuristic skyline of Xiamen, mainland China. You can see modern glass skyscrapers, high-rise apartments, and massive construction cranes building a new global aviation hub. The physical distance between where I'm standing in Taiwan and mainland China is less than 2 miles. At low tide, this gap narrows down to just about 1 mile. You can literally get a cellular phone signal from mainland Chinese telecom towers standing right on this beach. We visited the local Guningtou War Museum nearby. Inside, the walls are covered with dramatic oil paintings, but what struck me most was the atmosphere inside the hall. My friend and I instantly lowered our voices. We barely spoke out loud to each other. We didn't want to cause any awkwardness or draw attention by letting people hear our distinct mainland Chinese accents. Our local Taiwanese tour guide was exceptionally polite and professional. On the official museum plaques, the mainland military is referred to using aggressive historical Cold War terms like communist bandits. But when our guide spoke to the group, she used a completely neutral, respectful language, calling them the mainland forces. It made me wonder, did she realize we were from mainland China and deliberately soften her words out of hospitality, or is this just how modern locals view the past? Stepping out of the museum, we walked over to the Beishan Western House. This historic brick building was once used as a temporary military headquarters. Its outer walls are still brutally scarred, pockmarked with hundreds of real bullet holes and artillery shrapnel marks. Standing there, putting your fingers inside a bullet hole while looking across the quiet ocean at your own modern hometown. It doesn't make you feel angry, it just gives you this heavy, heartbreaking ache for how many young lives on both sides were lost in the conflict that feels so surreal today. If you think a place with this much military history feels like a somber lockdown fortress, you would be completely wrong. Modern Kinmen has taken this tense past and turned it into the most bizarre, peaceful tourism culture you will ever see. Take the Beishan Broadcasting Wall for example. This is a massive 3-story concrete wall built directly into a cliff facing mainland China. Embedded inside this concrete structure are 44 massive high-powered loudspeakers. During the Cold War era, this giant speaker wall was used to blast loud political propaganda across the ocean. So what does this massive military propaganda weapon blast out today? It plays sweet, soft, romantic pop songs by Teresa Teng, the most iconic Asian pop star of the 1980s. Her music was so widely popular that people on both sides of the street grew up listening to her love songs. Standing under this giant concrete monster on a quiet afternoon, hearing the love song echoing out toward the ocean is peak geopolitical irony. History here isn't hidden away, but it is definitely unfiltered. I also visited a local site called the Military Brothel Exhibition Hall. Decades ago, official government-sanctioned facilities were set up on this island for stationed soldiers. The official museum panels try to frame these women as patriotic volunteers, but looking at the actual historical records on display, where women were forced to service up to 10 soldiers every single day, with tickets costing more than a soldier's monthly wage. It felt deeply uncomfortable and tone-deaf toward female suffering. As a female traveler, I fundamentally disagreed with how the exhibit tried to romanticize that narrative. But at the same time, I respected the fact that the island doesn't erase its dark history. They leave it wide open for visitors to see, think, and judge for themselves. Beyond the history and the geopolitics, the everyday lifestyle on this island is delightfully slow, traditional, and packed with incredible street food. Every couple of hours while riding our scooters, we found ourselves pulling over for snacks. We drank boba milk tea, grabbed a steaming local street-side fried chicken cutlet, and had classic Taiwanese braised pork rice. Eating your way through Kinmen's markets proves just how deeply shared our food roots really are. For lunch on day 2, we tried a famous local specialty, fresh boiling beef soup. They take paper-thin slices of raw local beef, place them directly into a bowl, and pour a piping hot, rich herbal broth straight over the raw meat right at the table. The heat of the soup cooks the beef to absolute tender perfection in 5 seconds. It was so flavorful and fresh that it instantly ruined regular beef noodles for me forever. Afterward, we even tried grass-flavored ice cream made at the restaurant. Eating sweet green ice cream that smells literally like fresh pasture grass made me feel like an actual cow for a solid 10 minutes. However, my culinary luck ran out later that evening when we decided to try the infamous local Stinky Hotpot. In Chinese food culture, we have a famous saying, "Smells terrible, tastes heavenly." We love fermented food, but don't get me wrong, the broth, the fresh vegetables, and the tender meat in its hot pot were actually delicious. But the hyper-fermented Stinky tofu inside, that was absolute biohazard. The aroma hit us 3 meters before we even reached the table. I gave it my absolute best effort, enjoyed all the delicious ingredients in the broth, but after taking 2 bites of that intensely fermented tofu, its sheer potency completely overpowered my senses. I had to wave the white flag and officially surrender to the tofu halfway through the dinner. By 8 p.m., the streets of Kinmen were completely empty. There is virtually no chaotic nightlife here. The entire island goes to sleep extremely early. We ended our evening doing my absolute favorite travel ritual, raiding a local 7-Eleven store to buy fresh papaya milk and many snacks. Currently, travel rules between mainland China and Taiwan remain quite restricted. Right now, only residents with specific household registrations, like Fujian province and recently Shanghai, are permitted to apply for the travel permits to visit outer islands like Kinmen. Being based in Shanghai, I was fortunate enough to be among the very first wave of travelers allowed to make this trip. Whenever I share the footage from this trip with international friends or Chinese friends, everyone asks me the exact same question. When will everyday mainland Chinese travelers be able to freely fly over and travel all across the main island of Taiwan? Honestly, my realistic joke is probably when the leaders of mainland China, Taiwan, and the United States all decide to retire. Because currently, politics makes simple travel far more complicated than it should be. But standing here on this quiet beach, eating the same food, speaking the exact same language, sharing the exact same cultural roots, and watching the exact same sunset fade over both shores, you realize how surreal and unnecessary political barriers fail on a human level. The physical distance between us is less than 2 miles. The cultural distance is practically 0. People on both sides are warm, welcoming, and just want to live peaceful, good lives. Visiting this frontline island didn't make me feel political tension. It just made me appreciate how precious peace really is. If you had a chance, do you ever visit a unique border island like Kinmen? What surprised you the most about the life here? Drop your honest thoughts in the comment section below. Next week, I'm doing a step-by-step masterclass on how to order food delivery in mainland China like a total pro. Whether you have a Chinese phone number or not, I have got some cool little secret tricks to help you get hot meals delivered anywhere. Also, a tiny quick note. I have officially set up a coffee page. Creating this honest, unfiltered guide takes me a lot of time and travel. So if you enjoy my content and want to support the channel or buy me a boba tea, the link is right down in the description below. Any little support means the world to me. But honestly, just having you here watching is already very amazing. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks for watching Wikipedia China, and I'll see you in the next adventure.